All right, so here's the deal. It was super cold in Colorado. I decided to book a trip out to LA, get some sunshine in, and I figured why not set up a couple of photo shoots while I'm out there. There was just one problem. One of the shoots had a completely overcast day. So I love shooting natural light. I love flaring the lens. And honestly, I was only out in LA for a couple days, so I really had to make the shoot happen. And so I was lucky that I remembered a couple of techniques to be able to add artificial sun flare in post-production. So I went ahead, did the photo shoot, and I want to walk you guys through kind of what that process looks like, breaking down how sun flare is happening, and then also a couple different ways to do it in post-production. Okay, so these are the types of images that I love where the sun is just flooding the lens. You get these really nice soft characteristics, that really nice hazy look. And you also get these little imperfections that you can see, whether it's from a defect on the lens or just the sun is hitting it in a certain way. And I just love the fact that no two shoots ever have a similar look. And one thing that I just tricked you guys on is that one of those images actually had the sun flare added in post. With that said, let me go ahead and jump into the tutorial portion where I show you how I did it. Okay, here is the starting point for our image. As you can see, it was pretty overcast, a little bit of directional light, but honestly not a very interesting day to be shooting, especially in Southern California where the light is almost always gorgeous. So let's go ahead and let's add some artificial sun flare, a little bit of lens flare, and see if we can't bring this image just a little bit more life. So what I found is the best way to do this is to use the radial gradient adjustment layer. So I'm going to go ahead and create that right now, and you can just follow along on the screen to see the settings that I'm going to use. Now it's important to note that we got to change the color of this. So we want this color to be a pure white, and then this color over here, we're going to add just a little bit of like a yellow/orange tone. So that way it looks just a little bit more realistic. And these settings are going to vary from image to image, so it's going to take just a little bit of playing around before you find something that you like. So if you end up shooting a little bit later in the day and you want it to have more of a reddish orange, or if it's maybe a little bit earlier and you want it to have a little bit more of that yellow, at this point it pretty much just becomes preference. And then the second thing I'm going to do is add in the lens flare that's available in the filters plugin, but I want to add that onto a clean layer. So I'm actually going to add it, delete it, and then recreate the filter effect on a new layer. So if you're seeing me kind of jump back and forth, that's the reasoning for that. And the next thing is that these rings here are just a little bit too crisp. So I'm going to run a Gaussian blur over this entire layer just to soften them out a little bit. And again, I'm just adjusting the opacities to taste. So these are all going to vary from image to image. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with how this looks, and it only took about 2 minutes, and I can finish up the rest of my adjustments and color grading and then have this image ready to go. And I want to show you a similar process inside of Luminar AI. I saw another photographer using this on a YouTube video and noticed that they had a couple of options for atmosphere and sun rays and that kind of stuff. So we're going to see if we can accomplish an even better effect in Luminar, or if Photoshop is still the better way to go. Okay, so I really like this option. I think it was cool being able to add a little bit of the fog in hopes of creating just a little bit more of that Southern California kind of hazy light. The sun rays look almost a little too perfect. So, when you're shooting with like a nice 35mm lens, you kind of get these imperfections that'll happen with the lens flare and lens hazing. But overall, I would say for how quick it is, I think it's also a really good option. So I think it's just going to depend on image to image and, what I'm trying to get out of it. Obviously, I think there's a lot more control in Photoshop, but again, just be able to do something like this in 45 seconds is incredible. So I think I'm going to be keeping Luminar as a solid option as well. And just to show all three images kind of side by side, here is the original with no effects added. This one is the one that I did in Photoshop, so it definitely has a lot of that kind of haziness going on for it. And it's so fascinating to see how Luminar decided to process this similar look. And I don't think one is necessarily better over the other. I think it's really just going to come down to a per image basis. But anyways, I hope you guys love this tutorial. If you end up using this effect, definitely shoot me a sample over. I would love to see. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.